to the crib.
Looks down the field, fires, finds, scores! Touchdown, Fargo South!
Back to pass. He'll look to fire deep and intercepted! Stretchy, diving, he's in!
Olsen Telephone Company and R&J Broadcasting Incorporated is proud to present to you this broadcast on yourliveevent.com.
Welcome to the Taxman North Dakota Football Playoff Preview Show as we head to the semifinals across the state here in North Dakota. Let the team at Taxman help prepare your taxes and answer any of your tax-related questions with offices in Fargo or Moorhead. For more, go online to fmtaxman.com. I'm Chase Miller alongside Jake Birkemeyer and Joel Morgan. And fellas, it's been nearly all chalk this postseason as every division has the 1 seed, the 2 seed, and the 3 seed still alive. Jake, we'll start with you. What's been your biggest storyline from 9B to 11AA? What's the biggest storyline here in the 2021 playoffs?
Well, when you have a lot of chalk, there's not a whole lot of storylines as far as a bunch of Cinderellas or anything like that. But I'd say maybe if you're looking at maybe the most Cinderella type story, I'd say you probably gotta go with Botno as with the year they're having after having some struggles the last handful to be where they're at. That's got to be pretty special for the whole community there to be involved in the run that they're on.
Yeah, and you mentioned Botno there, Jake. A team that was 11-man forever, pretty much they go down to 9-man, then they haven't lost a single game there for the Braves. Joel, same question to you. Where do you kind of go here in 2021 for this postseason? You staying in the B, or are you kind of going to jump your way to the A?
Well, I think I just look around the classes, especially in the higher classes, where we're looking at some schools. Dickinson, a team that struggled to make the playoffs for a long time. That one team that's been the game you circle on your calendar, knowing that if your team's struggling, you're going to get a win against Dickinson or look good against Dickinson. They're a team that makes the playoffs, gets the first round win that they probably didn't think they were going to get, and they continue on their season. Red River, a chance to be in the postseason. We're just looking at teams that haven't had a lot of success in the postseason, haven't had trips in the postseason, even though some of them didn't make it past that first round. I think ultimately that's a big step for their program. It's going to give them a chance to get players excited about football, a taste of the postseason, and hopefully, they may not walk away with championships or they may not even get a postseason win. But I think for some of those programs to be in the playoffs alone is going to be good long-term for their schools and for developing more excitement and more football players.
Yeah, Dickinson first semifinal round appearance since 2001, and North the first time since 2000. Coming up this Saturday right here on your live event, it's Bishop Bryan at Hillsboro Central Valley in the 11B semifinals. Bishop Bryan is back in the semis for the 3rd straight year. They're riding a 10-game winning streak after losing to Dickinson Trinity to begin the season. Hillsboro Central Valley, same deal. Lost to Central Cass to begin the season. 10 straight wins. The only difference, it's their 6th consecutive year in the semifinals. Guys, Jake and Joel, you were both at the game last weekend. What changed for the Burros the second time around against Central Cass? Jake, we'll start with you.
I'd say defensively for Hillsboro Central Valley, starting on that side of the ball. First of all, they were able to stop the run. Wiersma with $130 in the first meeting of the year, held it just 24 yards by my stats in the rematch, made it so that getting pressure with those 3 down linemen. Talked about Jake Swanson and what he's done for that defensive line with the pressure and a lot of guys having a double team on. When they're able to do that, allows those linebackers to flow. That's what they're able to do, stop the run, allowed the passing game to not really give up anything either, just 10 completions on 30 attempts. Offensively, even despite their starting center going down early in that first quarter for Hillsboro Central Valley and a turnover on their first drive, able to get the running game going consistently, better push from that offensive line, picking up the defenders, moving some gaps. Lushik with some big holes to run through. Olsen with some big holes. Hebel had a couple big plays too. And third downs, both Hillsboro Central Valley converting and stopping on defense was big. There were some, especially in that first half, there was a Central Cass penalty for a big first down on third down. There was also a couple big completions that led directly to scores shortly after. And that was kind of, in the nutshell, the biggest changes from week one till last week in the matchup of the two teams.
How about you, Joel? After seeing the Squirrels take care of the Hornets, they kind of came up to a buzzsaw a little bit with the Burros there in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I didn't see that first meeting between the two teams, but I think Jake put it really well. Is I've seen the Squirrels enough to know that everything that has worked for them so far to be successful just didn't seem to be working for them. I think the physicality from the Burros caught them off guard. They weren't able to recover. Wiersma, again, not being able to establish the yardage and the big plays that they've depended on him for all year. I mean, he's a very physical runner. He can run through people. He can find openings, and that defense was right there to take away openings for him. Jake Deutsch he scored their only touchdown, but he really didn't get into the mix until later in the game. Just the offense just was not rolling where Central Cass needed it. The defense, that 3-man front was just not being able to create openings to get their linebackers and their corners in to try to make the plays that they needed to get made. So they just weren't able to stay in their system was Central Cass. And then special teams, where they've seemed to find a lot of success all year. That's kind of been their ace in the hole, if you will, for Central Cass. Special teams just wasn't doing what they needed special teams to do. So Hillsboro, credit that to Hillsboro's ability to just come at them and not take the foot off the pedal.
And the Burros have found ways to continue to play at home, win at home in the postseason in their 6 semifinals, and they'll have a chance again to defend home turf against Bishop Bryan. Let's hear from Hillsboro Central Valley head coach Scott Olsen, who sat down with Jake.
Welcome again to head coach Scott Olsen for Hillsboro Central Valley. The Burros advancing to the 11B semifinals. They'll take on Bishop Bryan in the next round. Coach, as we look back to Saturday, a highly anticipated rematch with Central Cass. We talked about it last week, and you come out, you get the victory, 28-6, the final score in that one. What changed between week one and last Saturday there for the outcome?
No, I think our run defense was a lot better. I think the Wiersma kid had over 130 on us the first week, and then he had 24 this last week. And we made them one-dimensional in terms of slowing their run game down and then forcing them to pass. But then we knew they were going to pass with 8 extra guys into the defensive backfield. And, we get pressure with our 3D linemen without having to send other guys in terms of blitzing. And, overall our defensive scheme and the kids executing was a lot better than week one.
How do you force a team to become one-dimensional and not go too far so that they can still hit you there with like a big pass or something like that?
Yeah, just some game tendencies that we saw, early downs, and kids that are just executing what we're trying to teach and plan, and and having smart kids too. That always helps, having the veteran crew that we have and understanding down and distance and things like that. It only helps.
With the win, you move on to the semifinals, and it's a spot where the guys have been there before. 6 straight years, I believe now, for HCV to be in the semifinals. First of all, what does that just say about the program here? And when guys graduate, it's always a new team. So for that new team to keep getting back to that spot year after year.
Yeah, it's a credit to these guys and their work in the off season and buying into our program. And when it's their turn to play, they're ready to step up and make plays. And 6 years in a row is a great accomplishment. But we got bigger goals in the semifinals this year, and we need to play well on Saturday to keep it going.
You look at the semifinal then with the Lions coming up, and they came off a thrilling 3 overtime victory on Saturday. They played the night game, so you had a chance there to watch that game. What did you learn about the Lions from that game?
They're just the resiliency to win. They're just like us. They lost the first game of the year, and they haven't lost since. And I'm sure their coach will say they to keep getting better and better. And they're not a big team in terms of numbers, and not a big team in terms of size, but they're scrappy. They'll fight to the claw. And the more I'm watching them, the more that we have to be ready for these guys and what they bring to the table. And a spread offense that they can have 2 or 3 different guys at quarterback that can run it or pass it, and then when a wide receiver that's very comparable to some of the wide receivers we've seen this year. And they do enough in the run game. I think they're more of a pass first team, but they do enough to keep you honest and Wilbur Hansel.
this point in the year, a team on the other side of the state, so you don't face them regular season. You got a game plan for them now. You got 11 games worth of film to go through. How do you get all that done, get that game plan set in a week span?
I got to have a good coaching staff, and I got that. And those guys are all breaking down different films, and as well as I am. And we kind of come together before every practice and talk about what we saw in film. And then when we watch film with the kids too, that get to relate to them, and then they can see what the rest, what when they watch film the rest of the week, they can pinpoint their assignments and their guys they're going to be going against. And it's definitely a group effort, and we've just raised it to another level as the year's gone on. That's going into the games, our kids are prepared, and as part of those kids, as part of my coaching staff, and it's just a credit to all those guys.
One other thing you brought up was depth for the Lions. There are not a lot of guys, but for you guys, you've had depth throughout the year. Got tested early on Saturday with a guy going down, seeing the next guy come in there. And that goes to that next guy mentality that this team kind of has.
Yeah, Mason went down with an injury, and he's still day to day, so I'm not sure yet. But and Caleb came in the first series, did a great job the rest of the game against a quality nose and that Central Cass had. And he just get more game reps, more practice reps for him, just get more comfortable. And we put a lot of centers to get a lot of pressure. You saw in the Lisbon game, Lisbon had a tough time snapping it, and that's happened to us before too. So, but Caleb had all good snaps, and you got to be able to snap it and block the guy in front of you. He's going to have another nose in front of him this week, and just him getting more comfortable with the communication between everybody else, and that's the practice reps that we'll need this week, and then it's just finding another guy. If Mason is out, we got to have a backup for our center, and or on paper our only backup is a freshman, and I don't know if he'll be ready yet, so we'll have to find somebody this week. And but that's part of the deal. Injuries are part of it. We avoided it all year, and we got bit by it. But our depth is definitely an advantage, and we didn't miss a beat with Caleb coming in.
Well, hopefully, whoever at that spot continues to not miss a beat. Coming up Saturday with the semifinal against Minot Bishop Ryan, Coach Scott Olsen for Hillsboro Central Valley. Thanks again for joining us here on a playoff preview, and best of luck. We'll see you on Saturday.
Thanks, Jake.
Bishop Ryan, well, they found a way to win in 3 overtimes in their quarterfinal round victory over Velva Garrison in the quarters. It was tied after regulation at 6. Zach Hendrickson scored the game-winning touchdown. The Lions have been bounced by Langdon the last 2 years in the postseason, Beulah in 2018 and 2017, and it doesn't get any easier here against the Burros on Saturday. Let's see how Bishop Ryan's going to fare as we dive into that Lion den with head coach, that is Roger Coleman.
Once again, welcome back to our 11B preview show with the head coach of Bishop Ryan. Head coach of the Lions, Roger Coleman, joins us after the Lions picked up a thrilling 3 overtime victory in the quarterfinals, defeating Velva Garrison 26-20. As mentioned in those 3 overtimes earlier with the first round victory over Hazen 21-0. Now on to the semifinals where they will travel to Hillsboro, take on the Hillsboro Central Valley Burros. And Coach Coleman, I'm sure everyone else has asked you as well too, but let's talk about last week. There were 3 overtimes here and what it took to get that game done.
Yeah, just really, an epic game for the ages, and really just, I think, great defense. The first drive, they really pounded the rock right down our throat and scored on that first drive. And then it was just, an old school football game all the way into overtime. And then, we had a couple things fall into our lap literally on the first overtime. We needed a 2-point conversion, and ball got bobbled around, and we ended up catching that to extend overtime. So, just a lot of resiliency from our football team to get it done in that third overtime.
You can talk about the things falling in your lap or those lucky bounces, but how much of that is because of the things that you're already doing as a team?
Well, I like to think that, we play a big part in that. Just how we practice and how we prepare. So, yeah, I think, what do they say? Fortune favors the bold, or, if you're creating your own chances for opportunity. So, sometimes you got to catch those breaks to get into the position that we're fortunate to be in now.
Looking at the season as a whole, dropped the first game of the year, Dickinson Trinity. Since then, it's been 10 straight. And how has the team continued to grow, continue to improve each week for the Lions?
I think the biggest thing is we flipped over a big part of our portion of our team. We lost a lot of all-state players. So it was just getting guys accustomed to roles. And a lot of guys hadn't really even played much football, some not at all, some not for 2 years, that decided to come out. So it was just really just that process of getting them to understand their roles and how we wanted to do things with a lot of new guys in big spots.
Did you have to switch some roles where guys were more effective in as well?
We really didn't have to, actually. I mean, early on, we kind of just had to see, we had a kid who maybe wanted to play running back. We're like, well, we think you're going to be better here, but not really from the years previous. Everybody was kind of still in their same positions that they had been in. So that wasn't a big deal. It was just, we had a guys in the right spots as far as like how our depth chart was built. But it was just the experience there. So we didn't really have to move anyone around. We just had to coach guys up. I know for our first game that we lost with Trinity, we had everybody in the secondary was new except for Zach Hendrickson. And 3 of them had never played full-time football, a full football season, or committed to football full-time for various reasons. But our secondary was pretty bad. It was pouring rain, it was windy, and we gave up a bunch of passes. So it was like, well, if we can't defend the pass in this, we're in trouble. But those guys have came a long way, and thanks to my assistant coach, Rob Nagel, coaches those guys. So that was really it. It was just getting guys more reps and ready to be football players.
Yeah, with some inexperienced guys and also some youth, some underclassmen in the lineup for you as well too, to still make it to the state semifinals. That's a pretty good achievement.
Yeah, I mean, we're proud of what we've done for sure, and I think you look back at the beginning of the season, like I myself, and I know our coaching staff and a lot of our players probably didn't see us in this position, having an undefeated region schedule. I mean, we're always confident in ourselves, but just turning over the roster that we did, I mean, it's a great accomplishment. Obviously, we don't want to be done yet, but we do feel very proud of what we've done as a team and as a program this year, more probably than other years, actually.
Certainly should be proud, but not done yet. Saturday, 4:00, Hillsboro, Central Valley, the Burros. What do you know about what they have on their side of the ball?
Well, I mean, they're a big physical team, and we look at their roster, and they have just about as many seniors as we have football players in general. So it's going to be a physical battle that we have to be able to match their numbers and their size and strength, really in the trenches where football is usually won. So that's kind of our main concern, is being able to handle their run game and their physicality, just with the depth and the large roster that they have compared to ours.
Offensively, both teams in top 10 as far as points scored. Do you want this to be a high-scoring game, or do you want to keep it more of a low-scoring affair?
I'd like to have it one high-scoring one way, but can't really do that probably. But I don't know. We've been in so many different types of games. Like this last game with Vel was a low-scoring game, and I think we're kind of ready for however it plays out. We won another game in overtime against West Hope earlier in the year, and that was a shootout in the 30s. So I think we've been in both styles of games, and I think we have an offensive kind of philosophy that we can do either or. So yeah, I guess I don't really have a feeling or a hope one way or the other. We just hope we win the game. I don't really care how many points we score or don't score.
Another key part of the matchup here for you, as we talked about with the guys coming back out, the experience there, but going on the road in a playoff game. What have you done to teach the guys about that atmosphere, get them ready so there's not that wide-eyed at the beginning of the ball game?
Yeah, and really it's going to be our upperclassmen that have to do that. We have a few guys that have been in these situations where, I mean, we were pretty much on the road after the first round a couple years ago with this senior group that was sophomores. So I think that, in high school, I feel like it's a little bit different. I mean, we just get on a bus, we get off the bus and loosen our legs, and then we get ready to rock. So really the approach being on the road versus being at home hasn't really been any different. I don't know that it will be. Maybe just some extra sandwiches for the long trip, but
I like that, extra sandwiches and then get off the bus and go play football.
That's right.
It's the way to do it. So, hey, Coach Coleman, for Bishop Ryan, thanks so much for joining us here at the time. Appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday there against HCV.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Also in 11B, Kindred and Bowman County will meet in the semifinals. It's the first meeting between the programs as the Bulldogs make the 372-mile trek from the southeast portion of the state to the eastern side. Nick Walker's club has outscored their opposition 307-93, paced by a couple seniors, quarterback Quade Lardy and finding the receiver in Clay Heimer for a couple touchdown receptions in the playoffs so far in their wins over Ned Rose and Alex Burlington. Bowman County's back in the semis for the first time since 2018. Kindred has battled a tough Northeast region with a 2-point win over Thompson, a 3-point win over Langdon. Both of those games were at home as well. And in the 11B playoffs, home teams are 11-1. Joel, the Vikings we know are big up front. They got Max McQuillan at quarterback as a dual-A player, also plays a safety spot. The Vikings looking for their first Dakota Bowl appearance since 2016, while the Bulldogs are going to make their first in a co-op history with the win in 15 years. Joel, what's going to give a little bit on Saturday in Kindred?
Well, I think looking at Kindred right now and looking at Max McQuillan and the age and experience of that team is I look at some seniors who played a lot of varsity minutes, who played in a lot of big games, who've been part of a lot of successful teams over the last few years. And I think their juniors and sophomores have been there. I think the age and experience and success that Kindred has seen over the last few years are going to be the biggest factor. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to separate the two teams come this weekend. Kindred may fall behind early, but they know how to win. They know how to come back. And I think that's the secret. Late last year, they made some changes to their offense. They were doing some different things. And when you have the right personnel, you can continue to do that. And I think Kindred has the right experienced personnel that you need in a game like that. And again, I defer to the age and experience of Kindred right now, and that will be the big factor.
Yeah, you talk about teams that have played well in the postseason, the Vikings, state track and field. You take a look at state, whether it's golf or alongside basketball. To Joel's point, a lot of postseason success in a lot of sports. Now we go from 11B to 11A, guys. Number 1 seed, Bismarck St. Mary's. The Saints are in the semifinals for the 9th straight year, and they'll have a rematch with Dickinson from a regular season meeting that saw Bismarck St. Mary's win 34-0 on October the 15th in Dickinson. The Midgets upended the number 4 seed Fargo South with a 24-yard field goal from Luke Mavity late in the fourth quarter to be the only road team in the quarterfinals to win a game across the state. John Tucksher's club was able to get some big plays from Troy Berg and Ben Carlson down the stretch in the second half. Of all the teams and all the games remaining, is this the Jack versus the Giant Slayer matchup, with St. Mary's being the king on the block and Dickinson trying to make their first title game since 1997, Jake? Is this, the king versus the guy that's trying to knock him off, so to speak, the pedestal?
It's never the king, because even if you win the title last year, that was last year's team, not this year's team. But it certainly is a looming presence of this is who you typically see in the big games. St. Mary's, just with the pedigree that program has. But like I said, you can't go off of last year's teams. You got to look at your team this year. And for Dickinson to say that they got to go and do what they got to do, just go make plays. Don't worry about what other teams have done in previous years or anything like that. We can talk about the big guy versus little guy all we want, but at the end, it's decided by how the players feel about themselves and their team come game day.
So you're going to have a West Region flair on that semifinal. The other semifinal, a 2-3 matchup. The Jamestown Blue Jays are in search of their first championship appearance since 1994, and standing in their way, well, it was Adam Roland's Spartans. Now, junior quarterback for Jamestown, Peyton Holkalter, passed for 3 scores, 273 yards in the Blue Jays' 35-0 win over Red River in the quarters. Jamestown has been tough on opposing offenses in the first half, outscoring the opposition 164-40 in the first 2 quarters. We'll see if that continues against the rushing attack of Fargo North senior tailback Mason Lockwood, who rolled over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground in their win over the Wahpeton Huskies. And then you sprinkle a little Butanen there at quarterback as well. Going to be a fun matchup from the Buffalo City on Friday. Let's hear from North head coach Adam Roland, who sat down with Joel Morgan earlier in the week.
We're talking with Adam Roland, head coach of Fargo North. Coach, playoff football continue for you guys. First off, congratulations on a win.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. We look back, I think, what was it? 2000 was the last playoff win for Fargo North. So There's been a lot of players, a lot of coaches, a lot of people involved in the program, and there's been successful teams, don't get me wrong, that have come through. But when you really look at that number, it's been a while.
You look at the seniors that have been a part of this team. They put in a lot of work, especially looking how things went last year. What can you say to their commitment to your program?
Well, like every senior class has a certain number of very committed players, you know, and I want to give credit to all those guys that have come and really kind of laid some of the groundwork or foundation and examples for this group. But this group in particular really had something maybe a tiny bit different or a little bit special, where they banded together. They really became kind of bonded as a group in getting into the weight room and getting work done. And it was very evident from an early age, and especially through the last year and a half.
With the new classifications this year for football, there was a lot of playoff football in Fargo schools and West Fargo. I know that obviously those other games, some of them had no impact. They were in a different class, but it did kind of make for a fun atmosphere throughout the city, knowing all this playoff football last week.
Well, I thought it was awesome. I looked at that. I didn't even realize it until one of my assistant coaches had said something about, you know, all the different games being hosted within Fargo and West Fargo. And then you even add Moorhead to the mix, you know, with their playoff game and stuff like that. It was just it was a great weekend.
Wahpeton, yeah, you beat them in that first round. You played them the week before to end the regular season. A different looking game the first time, different looking the second time. But what are the challenges when you play a team back to back, which really doesn't happen that often?
Honestly, I think it was just the waiting game, you know, because you're occupied by a ton of film and preparing for a new team and different formations and offenses, defenses, special teams, all this stuff. We just saw these guys, you know, we don't want to overcorrect and out-coach ourselves, right? We don't want to make too many adjustments, but we want to make sure we're making the right adjustments to what we need to do to really fix the things from that game before. So there's a little bit of angst, I guess, going through the week. I mean, that's how I felt. It was just kind of like, let's just get to the game and play.
Again, 41-12 is the win. It was a close one the week before. What was different for you guys second time around with the Huskies?
Well, you know, they played us tight in the first half, though, in the playoff game also. The big one was we were able to capitalize, get turnovers, and then capitalize on a couple big turnovers. We made enough adjustments defensively to not allow them to just really march up and down the field like they did the week before. Fortunately, we were able to do that to them, you know, the week before and the last week. So it was just some simple adjustments. Players made great adjustments to the coaching. And it really came down to, honestly, the turnover piece and then us capitalizing on turnovers.
Next opponent for you guys, Jamestown, not the Jimmies. You have the Blue Jays. They're a team it's really turned their program around. Coach Nelson's done a good job with them. What would you say is your big points in your scouting report of what to expect from the Blue Jays?
Well, they're very good defensively. You know, they're very good up front, both offensively and defensively. And while they're the best team, you know, I would say besides the Davies and Cheyenne, you know, but I think they're right up there. I mean, they would compete with those guys too. So, you know, they're going to be the best team within our division that we've seen this year. And it's really based off of their offensive defensive line. It's going to be whoever really controls the line of scrimmage the best between the two teams, because we feel like we're pretty good also up there. Whoever controls that line of scrimmage, and then it goes back to capitalizing on each other's mistakes.
They have a new field out there in Jamestown. They're sharing that with the college. I know a minor part of the game, but have you got a chance to see that field and excited for that chance to play there?
Well, we've just seen it on film. I have not seen it in person. I'm excited, you know, being a former track guy in high school and then a track coach. We've been to a couple track meets out there at the old stadium. I'm really excited to see what the remodel has done, and I'm excited for actually their community to have that.
All right, Coach, thanks for joining us here and good luck.
Awesome. Thank you.
As we go from 11A to 11AA, Bismarck Century is one step closer to making the Dakota Bowl for the fourth consecutive season after beating a rival Bismarck in the quarters. Peyton Arndt was able to tally 120 yards on the ground, and Brady Dahl scored 3 touchdowns for the Patriots in the win. They'll go up against the West Fargo Packers for the first time since 2016, when Century won in the semifinals nearly 5 years ago to the day on November 4, 2016, 30-28. West Fargo down Legacy in their quarterfinal round win, 31-rip, and behind 2 Parker Nelson rushing touchdowns and a very stout defense. Joel, this is a game where you sprinkle stellar coaches, Ron Wingebach and Jay Gibson. You sprinkle in some playmakers from across both sides. What is it going to take for West Fargo to hand Century their first playoff loss since 2018, Joel?
They're going to have to score more points than their opponent. That's what's going to have to take to get that win. No, I mean, it's for West Fargo. It's going to have to be ways to make offense. They're going to have to create some offense. They're going to have to rely heavily on their playmakers. They're a team that can put some points up, except when they play against Century. And you look at Century, I think they have 3 or 4 shutouts this season. They've shut some teams down. They're just such a dominating force right now. And that's going to be the difference maker for West Fargo is going to have to be their ability to score. And that's just it. I think their defense will do a great job containing, can keep the score low, keep it close. But if they're not going to be able to move the ball and find the end zone and chew up some time, they're going to struggle mightily this weekend.
Yeah, Parker Nelson and Carson Hengerly, obviously 1A and 1B, but to Joel's point, if those guys get covered or they can stop the run game, who can be that 3rd or 4th option for Peyton Jancy and the Packers offense? We go from there to West Fargo Cheyenne and Fargo Shanley. It's 2.0 version as they meet in the semifinals in 11AA. Cheyenne had their closest game of the season against the Deacons way back in September at home, a 36-29 win. It was the most points Cheyenne has given up this season, and both teams had monster offensive numbers. Let's hear from Shanley head coach Troy Mattern on the rematch with the Mustangs. Well, Troy, first and foremost, congratulations on making it to the state semifinals. Anytime you're playing in the month of November in North Dakota for high school football, you've had a pretty special season. Obviously, there's still a little bit more to get. There's still more to go. But what do you take away from that quarterfinal round victory against Mandan at home before you have a rematch here with Cheyenne on Friday night?
Yeah, no, thank you, Chase. We appreciate it. But I think we look at it more from a program standpoint. And, this being our 3rd year in AAA or now the AA, we just wanted to make sure that we continue to take step forwards. That first year we finished 6-3, but we didn't make the playoffs. Last year we made the playoffs. Now we took a step forward by hosting a playoff game and getting a win. But, from a program standpoint, it's great. But yeah, for these kids, any program, kids work extremely hard and, have the opportunity, like you said, to be part of the Final Four, play in the semifinals, chance to go to the Fargo Dome, what's at stake. Our kids are embracing this opportunity, and obviously there's a big challenge in front of us with Cheyenne.
Before we get to the matchup with Cheyenne, I'm just going to ask you from a fan's perspective a little bit here to kind of put you on the spot. Anything surprise you in your division after the opening week? I know we've talked about how strong the East is in terms of the 4 teams that were in the East this year. We could talk about the Davies situation, more so throughout the year, but 3 of the 4 teams that are still remaining, Troy, are from the East. Is that kind of how you felt like throughout the season, that the 4 teams in the East kind of had some muscle and it showed a little bit here in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, I think so. When you looked at the landscape throughout the season, and with Davies, really Davies was kind of the common opponent with all these teams. They played everybody. It seems like that was in the playoffs and, with them not being in. But I think when you look at Mandan, Legacy, West Fargo, us, we were all kind of in that, that middle corridor, so to speak. Cheyenne and Century kind of had the ranks of the league. But, I think it went as scripted. I think the East was a little bit stronger this year, but, we all had to play our games. And, like you said, 3 of the 4, and next year it might be 3 of the 4 in the West. It'll be interesting how that plays out. But yeah, we're excited with being one of those 4 and ready for the next week or this week for our challenge.
You go up against Cheyenne. I looked at the box score quickly before bringing you on just to make sure, okay, a high scoring affair. Both teams got over 400 yards of total offense. Obviously, you had Aiden Devine go off, Gores, Hendricks for them, just continue to be a load. So what changes here in the 2.0 version after a 36-29 matchup? Are we going to see that many points? Do you expect a more different style of game? When you play a team a second time around, Troy, what changes from game 1 to game 2?
Yeah, we're very familiar with them. They're familiar with us. So I think, and come playoffs, I just don't think there's always as much scoring, with the intensity the defense has picked up. But Cheyenne is an extremely good defense. I think outside of our 29 points in the regular season, they gave up like 28 combined, and then they only give up 6 in the playoffs. So they're a really good defense. And, we made some plays. We made some big plays. Aiden obviously had a good game. We blocked well up front. but they are who they are, and we know what they're going to do, and they really know what we're going to do. So yeah, we'll find out quickly if it's going to be a track meet or not. I think that benefits into our style if we can get there, because it gets our offense on the field and lets us get out and go. Our biggest concern this week is them putting together those 15 to 18 plays drives that take 6, 7, 8 minutes and keep our offense off the field. That's our big concern. That's their MO. So, we'll see what gives on Friday night.
Does that put a lot of pressure? Because I know we talk about this a lot, NDSU football, that's been their main script for how long, right? Those long drives, keep the opposing offense off the field, time of possession, limit possessions in the game. How much pressure does that put you on Troy if all of a sudden quarter number 1, they come out with a 6-7 minute drive, even if they score or not, but they just take that time off the field? How much as a coach do you start going, how many possessions are you going to get in a game then on the sideline?
Yeah, no question. Yeah. And realistically, our possessions might be cut in half, and we have to know that as a coaching staff, especially on the offensive side of the ball, we're not going to get as many opportunities to score. So we got to take advantage of the times that we do get the football to score, because we know they're going to have those sustained drives, because number 1, they're really good at it. And 2, they're just, they run it so efficiently, and that's what they're going to do. And that's their game plan, is to use that clock and grind it out and use those possessions that are 6, 7, 8 minutes. So we have to try things that, we got to be unique in what we're doing defensively to try to get them off the field, hopefully create, some turnovers. I know they're very good with ball security. So yeah, we understand as an offensive side of the ball, those possessions that we get are valuable. And I think that's what happened when we played them last time. We just ran out of possessions. We ran out of time just because they do such a good job controlling that time of possession.
Final thing for you, Troy, before we let you go, just taking a look at this matchup. Cheyenne's been to the Dakota Bowl the last 2 years. Obviously, Shanley had a really good success in what was previously, a 2A at the time, now 11 AA here this season. What would a win for Fargo Shanley's program? You mentioned about taking steps forward here at the highest ranking in North Dakota. What would a win over Cheyenne, a rival, a team who's been to the Dakota Bowl, get one step closer to trying to win a championship at the highest level? What would that do for this program here on Friday night?
Obviously, it would be pretty big for our program and elevate it. When I took the job at Shanley, we couldn't beat St. Mary's. So our goal for those first couple of years is, what do we need to do to get to St. Mary's level? And then quickly we shifted that, and it became, how do we get as good as Cheyenne and Century? Well, here we are. So this will be a true test to see if we've elevated our program to Cheyenne's level. And this game, with the magnitude of this game, the chance to go to the Fargo Dome, we'll find out where our program truly sits with one of the elite programs of where we want to get our program to. So it's going to be a true test. But yeah, if you can take down the big bear, so to speak, I think it's going to really elevate our program. And I think it would be good for our program to be able to showcase, it in the Fargo Dome. As for Cheyenne, that's everybody's goal.
Hey, Troy, as always, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck against the Mustangs and Coach Newton on Friday night.
All right, Chase, I appreciate the coverage. Take care.
Now, as much as we want to talk about offense in this game, Cheyenne has outscored Bismarck, Century, Davies, and Minot 63-6 in their last 3 games. The Mustangs are trying to make their 3rd straight trip to the Dakota Bowl, while Shanley, they've been there a lot in what was previously 11 AA. They're trying to get to the highest level title game since 1983. And last but not least is 9B, 3 seasonal favorites entering the playoffs. Lamorlich, O'Marion, New Salem, Almont, and Cavalier. Probably way back in August, you figured at least 2 or 3 of those teams would find themselves in the playoffs. But then how about the Bottineau Braves, who just withstood every test thrown at them this season at 10-0? Jake, I remember you saying last week in New Salem, Almont, you mentioned that the Holsteins would try to make a statement against Divide County. They were able to do so in the second half with a 52-24 win. What are you expecting with the 3rd-ranked Cavalier Tornadoes come to town coming up on Saturday?
Honestly, a little unsure, because Cavalier last week against Surrey, don't know exactly what it is. They weren't their typical tornado style of football as far as what we see in the final result. Still got the win, which is what matters come playoff time. But curious to see what New Salem Almont learns off of film that Surrey did, that they can try and replicate against Cavaliers or against Cavalier, and then how the Tornadoes look to adjust to those things, or if it was just a case of the personnel that Surrey's got matches up well Cavalier, what that was. So to be honest, I don't really know. I expect a good matchup, because it's going to be two of the, like we said, the preseason picks. But as far as how it's going to go, I'm a little unsure.
Going to be a lot of fun, and I like a slobber knocker. I think with Surrey and Cavalier might be the definition of that game last week in the quarterfinals. And to break it down a little bit more in their matchup with the Holsteins, here's Cavalier head football coach, that's Mitch Greenwood. Well, Mitch, first and foremost, congratulations on making it to the state semifinals. I know it's always fun to get to November football in the state of North Dakota for high school playoffs, and you guys won in an absolute slugfest against Surrey last week. Season low for points for both teams, 14-8, but you came away with the win. How do you put that 4-quarter game, into a couple words, couple sentences here, Coach? And what does a game like that mean to win like that late in the postseason?
Well, you kind of mentioned it. It was a slugfest. It was the most physical game we played all year. Defense was huge, and we've hung our hats on our defense all year, but we've always been able to come up with big points as well. So to win 14-8, it was kind of a surprise. I told our defensive coordinator the night before, I said, you got to hold them under 30. And we kind of figured it'd be a race to 30 points. And if you would have told me that we were going to score 14 and win, I would have been pretty shocked. So
is that kind of game to know that, you can score points against teams. Sure, you get 20, 30, 40 points in a game. But what is a, possession, hard style football game do for your club, do you think, going up against a Holsteins club that has scored some points on opposing teams and has a good defense? What does a game like that against Surrey kind of do for your club here, Mitch?
Well, it makes us battle tested, and we've been in those fights in the last couple of years. We've won a couple overtimes over the last 2 years, and up until this year, we hadn't been battle tested early in the season. So now we've had a couple of those close games, and I think that really, it does prepare us for the semifinals and the finals when we're going to get into a dogfight with somebody.
I know Clem obviously garners a lot of attention, and rightfully so, but let's talk about the man in Trevor Hinkle who had the game-winning interception. And just talk about his kind of season, but more importantly, just when you saw him get that interception in the last, minute and a half of that football game against Surrey, was it a big sigh of, oh, all right, we can finally put this one on the ground, take a couple of knees, and just find a way to get to the semifinals again?
Yeah, absolutely. The ball went in the air, and the first thing I did is I turned my head and I looked, and I saw Trevor had his head around. He saw the ball and he was tracking it. And I had that sigh of relief before he even caught the ball, because he's just been our big playmaker all the time and has been for a couple years now. And he comes up with those plays so routinely that I just have so much trust in him that he's going to do that. And when he came down with the ball, then like you say, we knew that it was sealed. They didn't have any timeouts left. So, take a knee and celebrate. And that was exciting.
Cavalier head coach Mitch Greenwood with us. And Mitch, I know there's a number of players who have stepped up for you guys, whether it's one game or throughout the season, but who are going to have to be some extra X factors again and some playmakers once you get to Saturday afternoon against the Holsteins coming up here in the semifinals?
Well, some of the players that maybe haven't got a lot of recognition this year would be our linemen. And, coming into the year, we had to replace a couple all-state linemen, and we've had some kids step up and do that, step into some starting roles for the first time. Now, especially on the defensive side of the ball, we've got a tremendous linebacking core. But our D linemen, we've kind of told them, here's your job. You just have to eat up blockers and let our linebackers make some plays. And so they're not coming out with, a bunch of eye-popping stats, not making a whole bunch of tackles, a couple here and there that can help change the trajectory of a drive. But they're doing their job. They're going to work, and they're keeping the linebackers clean so that they can do their job. So, kids like Demetrius Avila, Isaiah Lopez, Colton Hurst, Matthew Kina, those guys they're doing their jobs. They're eating up blockers, and they're, kind of the unsung heroes on that defensive side of the ball a little bit.
Anytime you go on the road, I know it's tough, whether it's the regular season or the postseason. I know you had a dogfight against Wymer Lidgewood way back in August, able to take care of Mayport, CG, and Finley Sharon Hope Page on the road. But now you go to New Salem, Almont, and square off with the Holsteins. What's it going to take to beat a really quality club in New Salem, where you take a look at the last 5-10 years? There's a lot of tradition. There's a lot of history with these programs on either almost getting to the Dakota Bowl or find a way to get to the championship game, Mitch. What's it going to take on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, there's a lot of tradition on both sides of this matchup here. Some of the keys for us, we're going to have to play really good defense again. We've watched a lot of game tape on them, and we've got some defensive ideas that we're going to try out here. And They've got a nice dual threat quarterback, Ty Wolding. He's somebody we're going to have to keep an eye on. He can throw the ball. He's got a good target in the Rude kid. And they've got some big size up front. They probably average 250 across their offensive line. The Hines kid was a state champion wrestler, big physical kid. So, they're just a well-balanced team. So in order to win this game, we just have to really play as a team, play as a unit, everybody do their job and not try to do too much and rely on the guy beside them. So it's going to be two evenly matched teams, I think.
Mitch, I know this is your first year. You've been part of the program, obviously, but Sandy Laxlaw at this time, a lot of people were kind of curious about whether or not he was going to retire. I remember talking to him before the Dakota Bowl game, earlier in the week saying, hey, Chase, just to let you know, this is going to be my last game, kind of came to a decision, just letting you know, don't need to make it a bigger story than it is. Just want to let you know. And how is, the transition from you, Mitch, to Sandy been throughout the year? How is this coaching staff and team continue to come together? And also, is Sandy still part of the team? Do you use him as a sounding board? Do you still give him a phone call? How's that all kind of come to play here in 2021?
Yeah, Sandy, he retired from both being a principal here in the school. So the kids used to see him every day in the hallways. And then, also as a coach, obviously. But he's still definitely a part of the program. We had a team potluck last Friday night before the game, and he came and kind of gave the pep talk to the kids at the meal. So he's been staying busy this year doing some officiating, not for our games, but and he's done a couple radio shows that he's called the last couple games for us on the radio. So he's been around. Definitely talked to him after games and asked him for some his point of views and let me know what I'm not doing right. So, but no, he's been great to have around, and he's definitely still a big part of the program, even though he's not the head coach right now, but he's still a part of the program for sure.
I like that. Does it kind of feel like passing the torch a little bit, Mitch, kind of to when Sandy kind of retired and you took over? Do you feel like you're just taking on with the Ron Oxendahl and some of the coaches that have been up there for a long time? When you think Cavalier football, there's been a lot of really good players, a lot of really good coaches. Do you feel like it's just kind of passing the torch along?
Yeah, it is, but with that comes a little pressure. You talk about guys like Coach Oxendahl, and I was really excited. He showed up here before the game on Saturday and came into the office, and this was his office. And we still talk about it. Some of us that are in school that played for him, our elementary principal Matt Ford. We were teammates in high school playing for Coach Oxendahl, and we still refer to it as Mr. Oxendahl's office, even though now it's my office. But kind of pass the torch along. Those are big shoes to fill. So definitely a little pressure that comes with that. But being part of the program and playing for Coach Oxendahl and then coaching with Sandy, I feel like that was great. Great way to be groomed into a position like this. Who better to learn from? So I think that part makes me a little more comfortable in the position.
Yeah, no question. Some legendary coaches when you speak of those two just specifically. Mitch, thanks so much for your time. Best of luck against the Holsteins on Saturday, and good luck in the state semifinals.
Hey, thank you.
Now to the number 1 team in the Lobos of Lemoore Litchfield Marion going up against the number 4 seed in the Bottineau Braves. Again, we kind of alluded to it earlier, maybe the darlings of this season so far. They go from 11-man to 9-man. They haven't lost this season. Jacob Shriver had 3 rushing touchdowns for a team that likes the ground game in a 26 win over Nelson County last week. Best season in school history for Bottineau. But can the story continue to the Fargo Dome, or will Lemoore Litchfield Marion find themselves in the 9-man title? Senior quarterback Corbin Potts had 6 total touchdowns in the Lobos' 20-point win over Grant County Flasher in the quarters. It was tied at 14 late in the second quarter before Potts found tight end Colton Ness for a score. Joel, what do you kind of make of this matchup? We mentioned Bottineau, the darlings, against a Lobo team that's got a lot of seasoned veteran leadership on this year's club.
Yeah, Bottineau has been put to the test and they've answered the call and they're in a good spot. And, I think a little bit more pressure is on Lemoore Litchfield Marion right now than it is on Bottineau. This is the team that the Lobos has been waiting on. A lot of these athletes have had success. 7th grade in I know they were Babe Ruth champions, I think, state champions at one point. They've been successful in basketball. They've been successful in football. These guys have been waiting to mature. This is the year they cash in all that equity and try to bring a championship to that co-op, where Bottineau is trying to find their place and they don't have as much pressure. I think back a couple of years ago, St. John got the win over Mayport CG, and that was a situation where I don't think there was any mutual opponents between those two teams. It was just a different look coming from a different region, and Lemoore might see that in this game. I think if Bottineau can keep the ball out of the hands of Potts and the offense and just run off as much time as possible, they put Lemoore in some trouble, keep that game close at the end, and come away with the win. So I think this one, it could be a great one. It could be an instant classic, but Lemoore is very dominant, and they can come out and be just as dominant they've been all season, and can take care of business and find a way to the dome. So I can't really put a finger on the pulse of how I think it's going to go, but I think definitely I can see it going a whole lot of different ways, and I think it could be a good game.
It's going to be a lot of fun to see if Bottineau's streak can continue, or can Lemoore Litchfield, after coming up short last year in the semis, find themselves at the Fargo Dome. All right, final thing for you guys. Across all the games that we have, 4 on Friday, 4 on Saturday in the state, what is going to be the best game in the semifinals and why? Jake, I'll start with you. What's going to be the best semifinal round game across the state, either on Friday or Saturday?
Oh, first of all, it wouldn't be a preview show without my phone going off at some point during it, so sorry for that. I'm going to go with 11B. I'm going to go with Kindred and Bowman County. 2 versus 3 overall in the bracket. Bowman County, after that win over Beulah to end the regular season, then picking up a close victory over Nedros and a 2-score over Des Lacs Burlington. Coming in against a Kindred team that maybe didn't have the margin of victory that a lot of people would have expected in the opening round against Thompson, and came from behind again last week against a very good Langdon area Edmore Munich Cardinals team. So seeing how both these teams come out looking to get to the dome, and you always look at that 2-3 matchup, it should be pretty good. And when you go across the state too, that's always another fun aspect of it. That I just think that Kindred Bowman County one's going to be the most entertaining game of the weekend.
Joel, are you going to stay in the B side, or are you going to jump up to the A side? What is your best semifinal round game, do you think, this weekend?
I think they're all going to be great, and I want all the teams to have fun and have a good weekend. I mean, I do, but I have some interest in that game we were just talking about, Bottineau and Lemoore Litchfield Mary, and I think, like I said, it could go one of 2 ways, and I think if Bottineau controls time, controls the ground game, keeps the offense from doing what they've done so well all year from Lemoore Litchfield Mary, we can see an upset coming. So I think if Bottineau can really establish a running game, I think we can have a really good game. They want to keep it low scoring, and they might be able to do that.
I'm going to go with 11 AA, Fargo, Shanley, West Fargo, Cheyenne. The reason Cheyenne, they run the veer, a very balanced team in terms of wanting to run the ball right down your throat. Shanley, it's like watching a high school team wanting to press, go up and down the floor and play basketball, trying to score 90 to 100 points, just different styles. That's going to be a lot of fun. Also, I think that could be a real doozer is that West Fargo Bismarck Century game with Wingenbach and Gibson, just playmakers across the field. Love to watch the ball on a Friday night. I'm going to go with 11 AA with those particular games to kind of watch. Fellas, thank you so much again for taking the time. Coming up this weekend on your live event at 4 on Saturday, it's Hillsboro Central Valley. They'll host Bishop Bryan for a spot in the Dakota Bowl. Coverage gets underway at 3:30. Make sure you tune into it right here on your live event. On behalf of Jake and Joel Morgan, I'm Chase Miller. Join us next week as we take a look ahead to the 4 championship games at the Dakota Bowl. This has been the North Dakota Football Preview Show, presented to you by the Taxman.